question of the fight against graft and the fact that the Inspector General and the DPP rather, and have come out to say that they need more evidence to fight graft. But one of the things that we'll realize with this fight against graft is that we've had many arrests, we've had no convictions, but that could also be a challenge on getting evidence. Your thoughts on maybe the way forward on this?
Yeah, I think I will agree with that statement entirely, because we've had so many arrests in the past few months as we, increase the war against graft. But we've not had convictions, and therefore we need to ask ourselves, is it that the evidence we collect against the culprits are not enough to nail them before the court of law? Or is it our institutions that are failing? We've had institutions blaming each other, judiciary against the DPP, judiciary against the DCI. And therefore, for DPP to come up clearly and, and actually acknowledge the fact that we've been having a challenge in gathering evidence, I think it is something that we need to look at and probably see where the loopholes are. Why are we not, recovering money? Why are we not making any headway in terms of the fight against corruption, and yet money has been stolen? The bottom line is that we've lost money as a country, and we need to recover it, and we do not want to jail wrong people. We want to get it from the right people, and therefore we need to look at the evidence gathering, and therefore that falls on the office of the DCI. Yeah.
All right, let me come to you, Honorable Wangwe, and reflecting on the State of the Nation address by the President, there are those who expected that he was going to name names to show his seriousness. He has talked a lot regarding graft, he has threatened, he has even cursed at some point, but there are those who expected during the State of the Nation address he would name names. Was that an expectation that maybe you had, and do you think he could have done things differently?
Thank you, Mike. First and foremost, before I even comment on that, I would want to pay respect to the lady, Evelyn Namuhula, who passed on yesterday.
Oh, yes.
The other day, she's from my constituency. She's
the lady who had quintuplets.
Yes, she's my hero, and I want to tell her family that may God rest her soul in eternity. With all that, I want to say that this statement of the DPP is in line with what the President said during the address to the nation. And when you look at what happened in 2015, the President quickly gave us 175 names, out of which I'm not sure if there is any person who was convicted up to now. I'm not sure. If there is, I'm not sure. So I feel there is lack of evidence. We need to differentiate between flight information which is moving around, and the evidence that
solid evidence.
Yes, solid evidence that will associate myself, Emmanuel, my colleague Dr. here, to the crime that has been determined. So I feel what the DPP is saying is very true. Let us volunteer good information. Let us also volunteer to give evidence so that the DPP can be able to hammer the culprits.
Okay, yes. And coming to you, Dr. Simiu, there's a time our intelligence was second to Scotland Yard. I'm not sure if that's still the case, but bottom line is our intelligence in Kenya is among the best. It's quite good. But when we find that we cannot get evidence, one is left with the question, is this by design? Is it intentional that that evidence is not found?
I think I'll start by saying, and I've said this severally on other media, that Kenya is one large criminal enterprise.
It's one huge cartel.
It's one huge criminal enterprise. And knowing a criminal enterprise, leadership of that criminal enterprise comes about through the sword. Then you lead that criminal enterprise. Once you lead it, you manipulate anything that can come up with that might incriminate you. So in this situation, people like EACC, and I've always said we don't need EACC. Look at the countries that don't have corruption. None of them have organs like EACC. You don't need it. For us, EACC is there as a gatekeeper of corruption. So they deliberately don't collect the information.
So are you saying that EACC is part of the problem?
It's part of the problem. It's part of the problem. It's part of the corruption problem. In fact, they deliberately don't collect the information. You go to any Tom and Harry on the street, They have the information, they have the evidence. But somehow, EACC doesn't have that evidence.
Wow, those
because
are
Kenya is a criminal enterprise and it has to continue as a criminal enterprise.
So are you suggesting then that removing the EACC is the solution?
It's the first thing.
That's the first thing.
We have to kick it out and leave everything to the DCI.
Okay, Honorable Amisi, do you agree with that EACC is a gatekeeper of corruption and possibly doing away with it is the first step in fighting corruption?
Of course, I feel deeply the frustration of my brother, Daktari, because the entity has been existent for so many years. But not so much has come out of it. It has been led by, including men of God, in the hope that they will use the Bible to bring the culprits to book. But now, Kenyans have been waiting, giving more resources, giving more capacity, including even enacting enough laws to guide them. Asking for more truth, we give them. But we've not yet gotten so much. So for frustrations like this, I think it is just incumbent upon us as a nation to relook at in the formation, why in the first place we formed the Anti-Corruption Commission, assess its performance over time, and maybe start thinking in the lines of Daktari here, whether we need it in the first place or we need to restructure it. But more so, I think whether we even rename it or abolish it is neither here nor there. I think our culture as a nation is what needs to change. We need really, I don't think it's about laws or changing institutions. It's just the culture that we have. I mean, you'll meet some members of a European country, and talk about deals, and you start talking about bribes, they'll not accept, because that's not the culture that's been brought in. And you'll meet members from another country that will not mention here on the TV, and they are so quick to give bribes, because that is the culture that's been brought in. Culture. So it is never about the institution, it's the culture as a country. We've had a bad manners. I don't know whether it will start with our generation. The generation of Daktari, I think it is beyond repair. I think from going forward, from our generation, we need to start building a different culture altogether.
In fact, your generation is the main driver of corruption.
Yeah, we've learned from you. Your generation.
Your generation is the main driver.
You need to teach us.
Honorable Wangwe, right what is playing up here was my next question. And unfortunately, as a country, one of the things we suffer is the blame game.
Yes.
We have the presidency saying the judiciary is the problem.
Yes.
The judiciary saying the evidence brought before us is not adequate. EACC will say that we have people in office who possibly should not be in office tampering with evidence. Now we have two members of parliament here who are legislators blaming each other on generation. Is that our problem as a country?
That's a red herring. trying to blame this issue on generations is trying to miss the point. The growth of graft in this country has been astronomical under Jubilee. Graft has been there, but not at the level it is now. Remember, from the time Jubilee took over is when we've had losses of billions and billions. In fact, I hesitate to call it corruption. It's just outright theft. It's outright theft.
All right, let me hear from Honorable Wangwe.
Thank you. First, I would want to go the way Honorable Amisi is looking at the issue of EACC. It's an issue of culture. It's not really whether you abandon it today. What will it serve the purpose by deleting EACC? In my opinion, let us begin having a new culture. Let's build a new Kenya using our
How do we build that culture? Because it's already so ingrained in us.
That's why I'm saying, that's where I was headed to. How do you build a new Kenya? By having a different look of issues, rather than it begins with all the political and executive plus judiciary leaders. If today the political class chooses to advance an agenda in terms of Kenya, our Kenya today, we are not part of a political class belonging to a particular tribe, and when somebody of our own is found in an issue, we don't come in and say, it is my clan, it's my tribe. We let somebody to carry his own cross. If I'm found culpable for a particular wrongdoing,
let me pay for it on your own.
Yes, carry your own cross. Don't say Aluya has done 1, 2, 3. But let us also be able to defend the nation as a whole. So according to me, it's an issue of what culture we are trying to build in our people, that stealing is part of the religion of this country. If you steal, you are a hero. If you steal, you belong to the class of the rich. Let our children know that by virtue of my father driving a Toyota vehicle or a vehicle of a certain class, he bought it from a certain business. He is doing a certain enterprise to earn A, B, C, D, E. But if your child wakes up today, finds you, Mike, you are driving a Lexus, and he doesn't know where it has come from, what does it mean?
It obviously communicates a certain message.
A certain message. Yeah. So according to me, it is how well we are going to instill the discipline into our children that is going to take us to our next level.
All right, Dr. Simiyu, I see you're burning to say something, but as you say that, I was watching a clip not too long ago, and they were talking about how they have fought graft in Singapore. And what the particular minister was saying is that it has to start at the top.
Correct. As our brothers from the lake say, fish rots from the head. If the head is rotting, the rest of the fish goes. And that's what's happening in this country. In fact, I can assure you, if we just prosecute 2 or 3 prominent personalities on this issue, it will start dying off. This culture cannot be, just wiped out easily. Remember, all of us have got some ethnic cultural backgrounds. If you go to each of those ethnicities, theft is frowned upon, which is equivalent to corruption, is frowned upon. So all our cultures have something against theft. So why do we have it now? It's because the leadership generally have been involved in this graft game, such that we are busy pointing fingers at this policeman who is collecting 50 bob, 100 bob. We are busy pointing fingers at this fellow who is playing some small games and making some little money here and there. But I can assure you, if we hit it from the top,
then
we'll
be winning. All right.
It will start ending, because this thing is not. I would like not to call it a culture. In fact, I was one of the people who supported the issue of having EACC again put in the new constitution. But many people are telling me, look, corruption is not a way of life. So putting this thing in the constitution, you are implying that therefore Kenya will continue being corrupt. But actually, I now realize that they were right. Because if you go to countries that have organs like EACC, it ends up being used as a gatekeeper of corruption, and actually starts being a political tool that if we don't like you, we'll actually get evidence against you.
Okay.
But if we like you, we will not get the evidence against you.
Like what seems to be happening.
And that's what's happening now.
All right.
Because honestly, if up to now we say we can't prosecute any of these because we don't have evidence, it's because we don't want to get the evidence.
Yet the evidence is out there in terms of how
glaring.
much money has disappeared.
Fact,
I mean, if I was to try and withdraw money from your account, it's literally impossible because of the security measures that are there. But they tell us that money has been lost from government, but yet they cannot trace where it has been lost.
Look, you know me. People know me. If suddenly, tomorrow, I start going to Harambes and giving 500,000 bob, 300,000 bob, then something must drastically have happened in my life.
Okay.
And that they can start from there, and they will definitely nab me if they want. If they want.
But
they
don't
want.
Is if they want. All right. I want us to move on to something else on the dailies, because we're still on the dailies. We'll come back to that. On page 9 of the Standard, we have Mutiambai, this is what I'll deliver. We have a new IG, the third IG, under the new constitution, who was sworn in yesterday. Coming to you, Honorable Hamisi, maybe some of the expectations that you have for the new IG as he comes into office, with Joseph Boynet now having been given another state job, but the new IG, your expectations?
I think for some strange reasons, Kenyans, this appointment seems to have elicited a lot of excitement and hopes among Kenyans. And the other day I was discussing with somebody that what used to happen during the Moi's time, that the equivalent of police boss, right now the IG, will be appointed today, and in the evening he has arrested all the opposition leaders, just to show how well he can work.
How efficient
But
he is.
now, today, we are taking a person through a lot of, thorough vetting, even after appointment by the president. He goes through parliament, he goes through other institutions. He is able to actually bring certain documents to show that he's worth that position. And I think it's just good we we give him space and see how he'll work. But I think so far, the police force in general has shown a remarkable improvement. And I hope we will also continue with that pace, except of course a few rogue policemen here and there. But so far there has been, maybe because of the checks and balances that we've introduced in the constitution, the IPOA and the whatever. But I think if the new IG, owing to his impeccable record so far, I think he'll be able to perform very well.
All right, and Honorable Wangwe, your expectation of the new IG?
Thank you very much, thank you very much, Mike. I would say Hillary is a great man by way of his CV, which he sent to us. And having been a deputy director at the spy wing of the National Intelligence, I have a lot of regards for him. That's not a lower rank. He is a capable man. And also looking at the former IG, Boynet, is from the same service. And within his term of 4 years, we've seen a lot of improvement in terms of response of the police service. So apart from now, a few rogue police officers, like the ones we saw in my constituency who killed one who went to the Changaden, shot at a civilian, point blank. The other one shot at his wife. That one, those are very isolated cases. And I want to urge the new IG, Hillary, to really make sure such elements are not only booked, but they are sent to rest in cells so that they can be kept there. But I have a lot of hope in him. I have a lot of respect for him, and I'm very sure he's going to handle the docket very well.
All right, Honorable Dr. Simiu, we have had police, the service going through a lot of, recruiting and renewing. But do you feel there has been that kind of a change, especially in the relationship between the police and Kenyans? Because generally there is suspicion.
I think the new IG has his job cut out for him. Because he's taking over a police service that was supposed to have been reformed, but never really got the reforms that were intended. And right now there's this idea of having the police live with not housed by the service, but they get their own accommodation, which to some people they think that will relieve the country, the government of the cost of housing them. But it will also have a cost on the service itself. Because, for example, if you are giving a policeman a house allowance of 9,000 in Nairobi, now where can they get a house of 9,000? Where can they get a house of 9,000 if not in the more criminalized, highly criminalized areas of this town? So you are saying that these policemen and women are going to live in these very insecure places with the people who they keep on arresting every day, and then they'll be going home without their firearm and living in the kind of circumstance. I think we are exposing the police to a dangerous situation. So what's the solution if they really want to solve this thing of housing? Let's change the way we recruit police. Because the way we recruit police is, you recruit me from Bungoma and post me to Mandera. I've got no idea about the culture of Mandera. So why don't we copy from the best practices in the world, in the developed countries, whereby they recruit the police from where they come from, such that if you're recruiting me from Naitiri, where I come from, I'm actually going to work in Naitiri.
You're familiar
and
with
by
the
the time
terrain,
you are recruiting me, by the time you are recruiting me, even the villagers know that I'm a person of good standing. Otherwise, right now what's happening is, and I dare my colleagues to contradict me, some people get very many letters to bring some policemen for recruitment. So they go and pick up all the village bullies, all their relatives, and dump them in the police service. So we are actually part of the problem of the police service.
When you say we, you mean
we the leaders, we politicians. So we end up taking we end up taking the village bullies, we end up taking our relatives, dump them into the police service.
Give us a solution, sir. Now that you've admitted that you're part of the problem.
I've given you the solution. Recruit the police from where they come from. Such that if you are saying I'm going to be the policeman in Naitiri, for example, the villagers know, am I a person of good standing? And if I'm a person of my standing is not good in the community says, no, we can't have that criminal as our police.
As our police officer.
Yeah. So and then that way, one, you'll have solved the housing problem because I'll be working from home. That's one way to do it. Then you have, because we are devolved now, then you can have a sort of centralized police service that serves as a backup, so that if there's real trouble, say in Marsabit or something, then they can be backed up by this service, but not the way we do it. The way we do it, Mutiambai means well. He'll try his best, but the way the whole thing is formulated,
the system
is
already
difficult.
Okay.
It's difficult to actually make, because we keep on traveling in the world over. This country spends so much money on people going abroad doing
benchmarking.
Benchmarking. What do we benchmark? Because we should see that how is the police service best run? How can it actually serve the communities that it's supposed to serve in a better way?
I want us to, you wanted to comment on that,
Yes,
Honorable Wangwe, before we move to the nation.
Thank you very much. That is a sectoral approach. I would want to say so because it can work very well in some areas and cannot work in other areas. So it's something which is prone to discussion, the way he has put it, that we now recruit from local areas, because there are various dynamics that affect recruiting from local areas, especially where it comes to a matter of handling security in totality. Yes.
All right, and well, let's now quickly look at the Daily Nation before we take a break. And the headlines is election loss, not a big deal, says Raila. Let me start with you, Honorable Hamisi. Loss for ODM was not expected by some, but evidence or